Hi, I'm Kevin McAfee, and welcome to Facets of the Stone. I'm with Jeanne Nigro, and Jeanne, can you believe it? We're finally doing a program to talk about God's heart.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Now, tell me about Facets of the Stone and explain to our audience a little bit more about what we actually mean by going into God's heart, by analyzing it, or the teachings that God's placed in your heart.
Right. Okay. Well, Kevin, Facets of the Stone is about God's heart. His heart, I like to look at it as a diamond. And just like a diamond, if you only are connected with one facet, or if you only cut one facet of the diamond, you don't get much glory from that diamond. You don't get much light. But if you cut all of the facets of a diamond, then it shines brilliantly. And it's the same way with God's heart. As we connect with all of the facets of his heart, then we connect with him, we experience intimacy with him, we experience more of his glory. So my heart is that I could connect you with all of the facets of God's heart so that you can grow in intimacy with him and really experience all that he has for you, the abundant life that he has for you.
That's exciting because, when I think about God and I think about our relationship to him, we think about where we came from, where we got started. Mm-hmm. And I thought it would be a wonderful thing to start the program out and talk a little bit about your past. Tell me about your family. Now, you're married to Al.
Yes.
What does Al do?
Yes, Al has a very unique job. He sells commercial airplanes and leases airplanes. So not the little ones, he always has the big jets. So he actually sells and leases airplanes to the airlines around the world. Most airlines do not own all of their fleet. They actually lease most of them. And so he deals with leasing airplanes and financing airplanes.
See, the thing that's so great about this is that means all of us and all of you that are watching at home are going to get free airline tickets to any place in the world because all we've got to do is call Al, and Al is going to take care of us. You know what's amazing about Al is you getting to know him and spend time with him. I can see his excitement and enthusiasm about your teaching, and you also have a daughter. Now tell us about Karis.
Yeah, our daughter's name is Karis, and she'll be 15 very soon. And she is an incredible girl, lives up to her name. Karis means God's grace or gift from God. Wow. And she truly is a gift from God to us. She's very, very special.
She is, and she's into horses. Yes. She likes all kinds of...
She's an equestrian, and she jumps and does hunter jumper shows and loves her horses.
That's so good. I have two sons that are both in the ministry, and it's exciting to see what they're doing. Michael is all about very uniquely working with the Museum of the Bible, which is an organization that kind of works with taking the Bible and putting it in Washington, D.C. with Hobby Lobby Corporation that has funded that. It's a very large organization. And I've got a younger son that's graduated University of Oklahoma, and we're so thankful that the graduation part is over. So we feel a little bit relieved that has taken place. And then my wife has three daughters that are all in school. And, it's kind of hard because Karis just came to Tennessee to look at some colleges. Now, has she found anyone yet?
Not yet. She's still in high school,
right.
But she was looking into a few colleges in your area. So she loves country music, and I think Nashville would be a perfect place for her.
That's right. It's Music City, USA. Yeah. I mean, we love Nashville, and we love being a part of it. And, as we have kind of found an anchor in a church home, you have found that anchor in Dallas. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, we moved to Dallas, Kevin, from California a few years ago. The Lord moved us there, and we've been attending Prestonwood since we've been in Dallas, and we also attend a Messianic congregation as well called Bat Zion.
And in the church, I know that both the Messianic church that you're involved in, and also you're involved in teachings of the Jewish roots. And I really think that's what's so interesting, Jeanne, about your ministry, and why I took a personal interest in trying to look at and understand the Jewish roots of our faith. Why is that so important to you?
Yeah. The Jewish roots are just incredibly important, Kevin. The first reason, there's so many reasons, but the first reason is that Jesus is Jewish. He came to this earth the first time as Jewish, and when he returns, he'll still be Jewish. And so getting to connect with the Jewish roots of our faith connects us with Jesus. It's a facet of God's heart that we grow in intimacy with him as we understand better the Jewish culture and the idioms and what he was saying. We have such a better and a deeper depth of understanding of who Jesus is and what we'll be doing with him when he returns.
One of the things that I have found that's most interesting about your ministry is when you talk about the return of Christ and you talk about him coming back, that He's God, but he also has a man's side, and that man's side is Jewish. And I understand that you have Jewish roots in your ancestry.
Yes.
I do too. And it has become, even through Rabbi Landry and my association with House of David, I began to understand even more about why is it important for us to even understand the Jewish side of Jesus or Yeshua?
Yes, that's an excellent question. And part of it, like I said, because we connect with Jesus because he is Jewish. But you know what, at least when we talk about the biblical feast, for example, which is going back to our Jewish roots, we experience a special appointment with God. Moedim is the Hebrew word for feast, or Jewish feast, the biblical feast, and we have an appointment with him. We wouldn't miss an appointment with anyone else. Why would we miss a special appointment with God? So it's a time of blessing and intimacy with God. Obviously, our salvation does not depend on it, but it's a special appointment with him. And it's a time to grow in intimacy and to practice what we're going to be doing with him in the millennium.
I think that's what's really most exciting. When I think about practicing these areas, and we're going to talk about it also in our next segment. But before we do, I want to take for just a few moments, and I want to talk to you at home about something I believe that is very exciting that Jeanne Nigro Ministries has. We've been working together on understanding the biblical feasts, which we've just been talking about more and more. What are the biblical feasts, and why should they be a part of our lives? And what's so exciting is the thought and idea that you can know and understand and learn the biblical feast. And here, just on this first commercial break, you're going to have a chance to see how exciting you can be involved in the biblical feast. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Most of us agree that there's so much about the Bible we don't know or even completely understand. Stories and people from a long time ago that document who God is, each providing a roadmap of how we are to live and who we are to God. Throughout the Bible, there are stories of feasts. Many are still observed today, especially within the Jewish culture. But very few of us know much about the feasts, and even less about the significance of what the feasts say about who God is.
Studying our Jewish roots and the biblical feast is so important, and Jeanne Nigro has created a CD series we believe can impact your life. You see, it helps us understand the facets of God's heart.
Author and teacher Jeanne Nigro travels the world teaching about the biblical feasts, the extraordinary way God reveals himself to us through the feasts, and the difference those truths can have in our lives.
Maybe you've been asking yourself this question: how could my family become more involved in the biblical feast? How could we learn and teach our children even more about these special traditions that were not created by the Jewish people, but by God? You see, it was his plan to design these biblical feasts so that you could be a part. This entire series is designed just for you, for your church, for your group, your small group. It's a time when you can come together and really learn the facets of God's heart. We're so excited about the biblical feast. Today, make the decision that you're going to be involved as well.
Understanding the biblical feasts is one way to know God in a deeper and richer way. To learn more about this fascinating teaching, get the full CD series, The Biblical Feasts, at JeanneNigro.com. This is a teaching you'll want to have and share with others. The Biblical Feasts by Jeanne Nigro, available at JeanneNigro.com.
Welcome back to Facets of the Stone. I'm Kevin McAfee, and I want you to know we've been talking about these exciting biblical feasts. And Jeanne, you know, as you think about the biblical feast, you've been conducting these feasts for many different people for a long time. I mean, goes back decades. Tell us what started that process in your heart and why you felt like it was important.
The biblical feast. How I actually got started, Kevin, with observing the biblical feasts and even knowing about them was actually through my daughter, Karis. She attended a Jewish preschool, and at that time I didn't know about the feasts, and all of her projects at school were always Seder plates and Purim masks and things like that, and I didn't know anything about them, so I started learning about the feast that way. And then went to a Messianic Passover Seder, took her because she knew all the songs, and she was only 5, but she knew more than I did about Passover at that time. And I was so blown away, really, by the teaching. I felt like I was born again. It just took me to such a deep level of faith. It strengthened my faith. It strengthened my intimacy with Jesus. And I started studying the feast then, and just grew. And the more I studied, the more I saw, not only do they give us insight into our Jewish roots and into Jesus, but I have experienced incredible healing in my heart of strongholds, of old wounds, from what the feasts communicate about who God is and about how he sees you. So there's so many benefits of observing the feast, but one of them definitely is that from the truths of the feast and what they communicate about God and about how he sees you, they bring healing to your heart.
Okay, for somebody who has grown up, I grew up in a Baptist church,
Okay.
and it was evangelistic, and we had discipleship, and we had all these different things in it. We would hear about the Jewish side of Jesus, but it was like, well, okay, he's a Jew, and then we move on. Mm-hmm. Only until later on in my life did I begin to see something change. The awareness of Jesus, the awareness of Yeshua and his Jewish roots. Mm-hmm. And I realized, even to my sons, to our daughters, to the ability to impact our children, that young people today, we've got to stop and look at and really understand what the Yeshua side of Jesus truly is. I think that's such an important element. And for some reason, we have not just a generation that has missed those teachings, but I think overall the church has kind of moved away from it. And why do you think it's that way?
I believe that we don't know about the feast now in this year, this time of a generation, because of anti-Semitism, because there was very deliberate moves made way back by our early church fathers, the Council of Nicaea, to separate anything that had to do with Jewishness. Even though obviously Jesus' first followers were all Jewish, they separated anything that had to do with Jewish from Christianity, and that was a very deliberate move that was made specifically in 321 AD. So ever since then, people were punished and executed for celebrating the feast. So obviously now, I really believe that it's a move of the Holy Spirit upon the church to get back to its Jewish roots because of the return of Jesus, and to prepare for him. We are to prepare for our bridegroom, and if our bridegroom is Jewish, don't we want to know what that, about what that means in his culture? I always say, if you were getting married, I know you're married, Kevin, but say that you were getting married next week, wouldn't you want to know everything you could about your wife, about what it's going to be like to live with her the rest of your life? Same thing with Jesus. We want to know everything we can about him. We're going to be with him for all eternity. And don't we want to know what he's going to be like and what we're going to be doing with him and what he's going to be doing? And we have an incredible future with him to look forward to. It gives us hope in these days of uncertainty.
And I believe that a lot of times we can put faith on a shelf, and I'm guilty of this. We segment our lives. We say, well, let's take our training and let's take our faith, and then that's good, and then we'll kind of integrate it for portions. Then we live our life the way we want to live, and then all of a sudden, we've got to do this. It's Sunday, or it's Easter, or it's Christmas, or it's Hanukkah, whatever that is. I think there has to be a real awareness in how we integrate our faith and our relationship to God. And you believe that the facets of his heart start and begin at these basic, fundamental Jewish roots that we should be studying.
Yes, I believe that as we connect with and we align our hearts with his heart toward the biblical feasts and toward our Jewish roots and toward Israel, that we grow in intimacy with him. And then that intimacy we bring into the moment by, intimacy, Kevin, I believe, grows in the moment-by-moment places. It's not so much something that we gain at a retreat or that we gain through a book. Those things help, but really where we grow in intimacy with the Lord is through the moment-by-moment choices and thoughts and emotions and words. It's those moment-by-moment things that we all deal with, fear and anger and unforgiveness and just the things that are life, and dealing with our children and our spouses and our workplace. So it's in those places that if we can bring into those places what we learn from the feast as to what they tell us about how God sees you and who he is, when we can bring that into the moment by moment, we grow in intimacy, and then we integrate into our lives versus compartmentalize Sunday or feast or holiday.
Exactly.
Because we want to, if we don't have that intimacy in the moment by moment places, we will not be able to stand strong. As things change in the world, change in our lives, we can't stand strong. we will fall to fear, we will fall to passivity, just giving up, waiting for his return. And he's not calling us to just wait. He's calling us to action. But we can't take action unless we first have that intimacy. Everything has to flow from intimacy, or else it's in our own strength.
One of the things that has really helped me in my growth, and especially in walking with Yeshua, is to go visit where did the birthplace of Yeshua come from? Where did we first understand that small baby in a manger? What were the streets that he walked on in Jerusalem? And I want to tell you that are watching, whether you're at home or whether you're on your computer or wherever you're receiving this program right now, to get to know Jesus, our Yeshua, you need to be where he is. And one of the things that Jeanne is doing, and I'm excited about this, is going with you to Jerusalem and shooting in the Holy Land and talking from biblical terms, the way that we understand what was happening in Yeshua's life. And I can tell you that is what is going to make this program different in your life. We're going to be bringing these biblical teachings to you. But before we do, in the next few moments, you're going to hear about Jeanne Nigro's series on the biblical feast. I'm so excited that you have the opportunity to be involved in making this a part of your life. Now stay with us, and as we talk and come back in just a few moments, we're going to see even more about how the Jewish roots are part of our faith.
Most of us agree that there's so much about the Bible we don't know or even completely understand. Stories and people from a long time ago that document who God is, each providing a roadmap of how we are to live and who we are to God. Throughout the Bible, there are stories of feasts. Many are still observed today, especially within the Jewish culture. But very few of us know much about the feasts, and even less about the significance of what the feasts say about who God is.
Studying our Jewish roots and the biblical feast is so important, and Jeanne Nigro has created a CD series we believe can impact your life. You see, it helps us understand the facets of God's heart.
Author and teacher Jeanne Nigro travels the world teaching about the biblical feasts, the extraordinary way God reveals himself to us through the feasts, and the difference those truths can have in our lives.
Maybe you've been asking yourself this question: how could my family become more involved in the biblical feast? How could we learn and teach our children even more about these special traditions that were not created by the Jewish people but by God? You see, it was his plan to design these biblical feasts so that you could be a part. This entire series is designed just for you, for your church, for your group, your small group. It's a time when you can come together and really learn the facets of God's heart. We're so excited about the biblical feast. Today, make the decision that you're going to be involved as well.
Understanding the biblical feasts is one way to know God in a deeper and richer way. To learn more about this fascinating teaching, get the full CD series, The Biblical Feasts, at JeanneNigro.com. This is a teaching you'll want to have and share with others. The Biblical Feasts by Jeanne Nigro, available at JeanneNigro.com.
Welcome back to Facets of the Stone. I'm Kevin McAfee with Jeanne Nigro of Jeanne Nigro Ministries. And Jeanne, there's always some unique teachings that we look at when we try to understand what God is doing in our life. And it seems like at any point in time, we take a snapshot of where we are spiritually, and we try to ask, what's God doing in our life right now? What is God doing in your life right now? How's he moving in your heart?
He is calling me, Kevin, to really step out of the boat, and to put it bluntly, to step out in faith with the ministry and expanding the ministry and believing that he wants to take this message to the nations. And he spoke to my heart at the Western Wall, actually in Israel, a long time ago, and said, "Take my temple to the nations." And what that meant to me, we're at the wall, which is where the temple was, is that the temple communicates so much about who God is and how he sees you and his heart for you. And so he wants that message of who he truly is, not how the culture has defined him, not how we have defined him, not how the world has defined him, but how he has defined himself, or as how he has revealed himself, and how he sees you and his love for you, and to take that message to the nations. And so I'm stepping out in faith with Facets of the Stone, and trusting that that is his will. Even though we don't see the whole picture, we don't always know exactly where it's going, but we trust that he's providing what he's calling us to do.
I have to tell you, it's scary to do that. It's scary to step out in faith, believing that God's going to do something amazing in your life. And it's like, I'm a filmmaker, as you know, and I always think of that Indiana Jones movie where he has to step out and there's nothing. And all of a sudden, when he places his foot there, there is something,
yes.
but he can't see it.
Yes.
And it's like this invisible sidewalk in the middle of the mountains, and you just think, oh no, he's going to fall, but he doesn't fall. And that faith that is so difficult for us in the natural, it doesn't even make sense in the natural. And I think, that's why it's so hard sometimes for us to believe that we can have a relationship with God, because there's nothing we can see or touch.
And then also, Kevin, there's nothing we can see or touch. And then we have never experienced love like that from anyone else. I mean, no matter if we've had the perfect parents, which I don't think anybody does, because no one is a perfect parent. I'm not perfect.
No, I thought I did.
Yeah. We have never experienced love like his. And so what we do is we believe lies about God, because we put other people's face on him, based on experiences that we've had with either our parents or authority figures or teachers or coaches. So or even our culture, messages that we get about God. So we put other messages or other faces on him, and then it's hard for us, obviously, to trust someone like that. So, but the more that you connect with the facets of his heart and have that intimacy with him, then you can trust him. But I believe you have to have that intimacy first. You have to know who he is in order to trust him.
You do, and knowing God and understanding God. I loved what Henry Blackaby said in Experiencing God. He says, wait till God starts doing something and get in on what he's doing.
I remember that.
And it's like, wow, there's every epistemology that is out there, every kind of faith, all the faiths have a ascent. You have to do this, then you have to do this, and then you get to this level, and you do this, you get to this level. And what ends up happening is, if you do all the levels, then you get to be with God. Well, in our faith, it's not that way. We just have to trust blindly and have faith that his grace will be sufficient for us. And it's hard.
Jesus has done it all.
Yes, but it's
He's
hard.
He's the performer, not us.
Yes,
He's the one that performed for us. And we don't have to perform to be loved, to be accepted.
Yes.
And there's no other relationship on earth that's like that. People always like you a little more if you do what they want you to do, and if you perform, you get feedback that you're good. So it's really hard for us to accept in our heart that we don't have to perform. No matter what we do, when we are in him, we are accepted because of what Jesus did.
It's so important. And I can tell you this, for those of you watching Facets of the Stone here with Jeanne Nigro and our ministry, we can tell you that the way that it all begins is for you to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, with Yeshua. Now, how does that happen? It happens by you stepping out in faith, just like what Jeannie's been talking about, and being able to step into an area that might seem a little bit uncomfortable. So I want to take this time to ask, do you really know him? Do you have that place in your heart where you know for certain that if you were to die, that you would go to be with him? Did you know that you can? You can. It's true. You see, last year, my mom passed away, and it was so difficult for us, and I kept thinking, where's mom? Sometimes even today, I think, where's mom? But I have this promise, and the promise is in Christ and Christ alone. You see, he came that you would have life and have it more abundantly. And if you will trust him, if you will take that step in faith, and here's how you do it. You just repeat this prayer after me. Say, Dear Jesus, I ask you to come into my life. Forgive me of every sin. Save me. Make me a new person as I give my life to you. And it's in your name I pray. Amen. Maybe this was the first time that you've ever prayed that prayer. Maybe you've thought it out loud or you've asked God to forgive you before, but this time, this is different. Something inside caused you to watch this program today. And the program is designed to help you grow in your faith. But if you don't have any faith, there's no place to grow. In the Jewish roots, you have to be grafted into that faith. So today, we pray for you. And Jeanne, I know for you, this is the reason why that you're stepping out in faith, to be this voice and this call to the nations. And that's to bring people into fellowship with him.
Exactly, to experience intimacy with God. That, Kevin, is our purpose. It is your purpose to being on the earth, is to have intimacy with God, to know him. That's the main reason. And when we focus on that, Jesus talks about the one thing, Kevin. And when we focus on that one thing, just staying in intimacy with him throughout the day, he takes care of everything else. Really, he just wants us, all he asks of us is one thing. He just wants you. He doesn't want you to work for him. He doesn't want your performance. He just wants relationship with you. That's why he died for you, to have relationship with you.
Thank you, Jeanne. Well, I tell you what, I'm so glad that you're here to join us, and thank you for being a part of Facets of the Stone. Make sure that you get involved in your local church community, in your local church and faith group. Get involved in a life church. Get involved in a life community. Don't just sit on the sidelines, but get excited about serving him. Now, we want to encourage you to get these Biblical Feast CD series and be a part of Jeanne Nigro Ministries. So on behalf of our ministry, we love you, God bless you, and we thank you for joining us.
If you've enjoyed today's show, Facets of the Stone, we encourage you to find out more about the ministry work of Jeanne Nigro at JeanneNigro.com. There you'll learn more about the teachings from today's show, as well as other insightful topics. The Biblical Feasts, Breaking Free, and many more. Jeanne Nigro's teachings are available on CD, as well as her new book, Unshaken. Also, check out when Jeanne will be teaching in a city near you. For more information or to help support the work of Jeanne Nigro Ministries, visit us at JeanneNigro.com. Teachings that impact your life. Teachings that help you grow deeper in your relationship with God. JeanneNigro.com.